So, last year, while we were in Florida, I found some sargassum in the sea, and I brought some home and kept it over the winter, and it stayed alive. So, I'm gonna try farm it in this tank behind me. I managed to bring back with me about 10 or so gallons of seawater. So I'm going to first fill it up with seawater and then fill it up the rest of the way with regular water and then add salt, just to keep the appropriate salinity. This is about 8 gallons of water right here, so it's probably a 20-gallon tank, so I don't necessarily have enough salt for 12 gallons of water. So I may just put a few more gallons in. So I'm going to fill these, I'm probably going to fill it to about right this level, I'm guessing. So I'm going to measure how many gallons I'm going to fill. I looked up how much salt is in seawater, and it's 1/4 to 1/3 cup. So I'm going to put about that much of salt per gallon that I put in. So I'm going to put just regular canning and pickling salt. I'm going to put a cup in 4 gallons. This water came from the Gulf, and the Gulf is saltier than average. So it's probably got more like 1/3 of a cup per gallon. Most botanists put it in a protist kingdom instead of plantae. So I think that's pretty cool. This Sargassum is considered as called a brown macroalgae. So it's it's very interesting the way it grows and everything. And the parts of it have different names than regular plant parts, because the leaves on it are not considered leaves, they're called blades. And the stem, I think, is called a thallus. I'll give you a close-up view of it after I dump this in. There. That's 16 gallons of saline solution. It should be good. I forgot to strain it that time. Anyway, it's all good. So, this is what survived and what survived from my experiments this year. And it actually looks pretty healthy. It's growing very well. I can't wait to see what it looks like when it gets in good sun and enough water. It's like releasing a fish into the water. What I hope it will do, and what it's supposed to do, is make big mats. In the Sargasso Sea, that's why it was named the Sargasso Sea, because of all the sargassum. There's lots of it, and makes a good habitat for animals. So I'll show you an up close of it. This is it in the tank. Those bowls on it that look like, at first I thought they were fruit or seeds or spores or something, but I did some research on it and I found out that they were actually air pockets, and they're filled with oxygen, and they're called vesicles, and they help it float, because if it sinks too far down it can't photosynthesize properly, so it keeps the leaves up close, because it's a shallow water algae. There's also, if you look closely, there's these yellow, they look sort of yellowish, it's hard to see them properly, but right here at the end, right there, those are actually reproductive bodies, and it's really interesting. Its reproductive system is very complex and unique. It actually has it does a different type of cell division for the rest of its reproductive system, not just the gametic cells. And so it has basically haploid reproductive bodies, which means that each cell has half the number of chromosomes, or half the number of sets of chromosomes of the other regular cells, which is strange in regular somatic cells. So it's really interesting. It's the only type of organism that I know of that does that. I believe the species that I have is Sargassum fluitans, and I don't know if you can see it properly, but I think there is some new vegetative growth on there. But one thing that kind of disappointed me when I finally figured out that my sargassum was reproducing, one thing that disappointed me was that I read that Sargassum fluitans is almost always sterile, so I don't know why it even bothers to put out reproductive bodies, but it will reproduce, hopefully very prolifically, vegetatively. So that's very hopeful, because it does form large mats in the ocean. So I'm going to put in a comfrey leaf, because they're high in nitrogen, and apparently nitrogen really helps algae grow, and they don't burn in the same way that plants burn with nitrogen. So there's actually a kind of a problem with algae blooms, where there's more algae blooms in the sea now, that there's been fertilizer dumping in the ocean, and the more fertilizers being more commonly used, so there's been a lot more blooms lately. So that could be a bad thing, but also it could be seen as a good thing because it means more biomass in the ocean and more food for the fish to eat and more carbon taken out of the atmosphere in the form of algae. But then it could also mean that there's more shade for the lower layers of the sea, and it might obstruct shipping, which, whatever opinion you have of that, you'll think about it differently. But anyway, that's it for this step. I'm going to make a lid for this now, or a shelter for this, so it won't fill up with rainwater and dilute the salt content. Okay, so this is the roof for it. I built a little cover so it wouldn't get wet.